Hello, it's Film Frenzy and Shazam. The 7th entry in the DC Extended Universe just came out, so it's time to rank all 7 of these films, dating back from Man of Steel in 2013 up until Shazam in 2019. Let's get right onto this list with the very worst of the bunch, Suicide Squad. So, not only is Suicide Squad easily the worst DC Extended Universe film, but I'd say it's easily one of the worst superhero movies of all time too, and maybe even one of the worst movies period of all time. I absolutely hated this film, and there's so much wrong with it, so little right. I'll start with the right stuff, because why not be nice first? And this movie has 2 very solid characters, though they could be developed a little bit more, which are Deadshot and Harley Quinn, played by Will Smith and Margot Robbie respectively. They both did a very good job in their roles. It was really fun to see Harley Quinn in live action in like a movie for the first time. That was very cool. And there are some funny jokes here and there, and a couple half-decent action scenes, but more often than not, it's such bad action, very generic. Hell, there's even a blue sky beam at the end of the film. Like, come on. They're just trying to be cliche and terrible. Some of these lines are so miserable. The jokes often don't land. The drama is usually really stale and melodramatic, especially with the beginning. All the exposition is so goofy, like how they have the title card of each character and like some stats about them at the beginning of the film. It looks like you're playing like Injustice, the video game or something. This, like, it's not even a real movie. It's ridiculous how much, like, I laughed at the movie, not with it, which is just really sad, especially with lines that are super exposition-y, like when Rick Flag is talking about Katana and her sword, how it traps like the people that murdered her husband or something, and it just is so goofy and hilarious in a bad way. I feel like they really just did not nail the tone, and it's like they were trying to go for what I think Venom nailed a lot better, like that dark humor tone, but unfortunately it didn't land at all in Suicide Squad, along with a really terrible villain with June Moore / Enchantress. So yep, this movie's easily coming out last. At number 6, I have Batman v Superman, the first team-up movie in the DC Extended Universe. If only the movie was as good as the sick poster, because this was very underwhelming. It was a legendary matchup. It made a ton of money at the box office, understandably. This was such a huge deal, but it was just so poorly done. Of course, there's the very terrible Martha scene. You guys all know what I'm talking about there. I think they really just shouldn't have included Wonder Woman if they're only going to have her for 5 minutes, because she's such a good character and they don't really show her that much in the film, so that was kind of disappointing. Lex Luthor, he was entertaining, but Jesse Eisenberg is totally a Riddler. He was playing him like the Riddler. It would have been so sick to see him as a Riddler character, like Jim Carrey, but he is not a Lex Luthor. That was just so odd and just did not fit at all with the film. They used Doomsday so poorly. That was just terrible. Like, I don't even know why they included them, because it didn't really add to the plot and just created a bunch of bad action. There were some good scenes. I loved when Batman just knocks out like 8 guys in that warehouse. That was sick. There was a lot of bad lines, unfortunately, and this is the movie that really made everybody be like, oh, DC Extended Universe, why so dark? As Deadpool says to Josh Brolin's Cable in Deadpool 2, and that really reflects in this movie, because there's like about 4 jokes. I think I counted when I was watching the movie, and I was like, jeez, like, I've never seen a movie with this little jokes before. It's ridiculous. And a couple of them were decent jokes, I have to admit, but there's so little and so dark. It takes itself way too seriously, not just in tone, but also just literally. Like, it's so bleak, the film. It's so gray and dark. There's so little color, and maybe that's what Zack Snyder was going for, but I think he needs to balance the humor and the drama a bit more, and it just became a slog of a film that went on for way too long, unfortunately. Not a very good movie at all. And at number 5, I have the first ever live-action Justice League team-up movie. So, Justice League is a movie that I feel like people are way too harsh about, especially with the critics, and I feel like it was also one that almost ended the DC Extended Universe if it wasn't for Aquaman the next year being a very solid film, and in some parts it did, because neither Ben Affleck nor Henry Cavill are coming back to their roles of Batman and Superman, which are like the big roles, and that's largely to do with this movie's failure at the box office, and for a number of reasons. There's a lot. I'm not going to go into that, of course, but I found this movie to be just very fun. It's severely flawed, of course. The CGI at the end especially, I think it was in the Ukraine, was just so bad, and there's some really just ugly looking fights, but they show off the different characters' abilities very well. That was fun to see. I really liked what they were doing with Cyborg. I'm still holding on that he gets a solo film. I liked Flashlight. Ezra Miller was great in that. I thought Ben Affleck did a very good job as Batman. I've always loved Ben Affleck's Batman, and I'm really sad to see him go. Henry Cavill, they did a bit more with him and made Superman more hopeful. I thought that was fun. Of course, his mustache, well, unmustached upper lip looked really odd, and that drew a lot of memes. But overall, I thought it was a solid film. There's a lot of bad lines here and there still, but there was some more humor, and it was some good humor. And it doesn't hurt having Wonder Woman in a more prominent role. So overall, fun movie. Definitely a lot of flaws to it, but I enjoyed it a lot. I'm just sad to see them not make another Justice League film with this incarnation of the League. At number 4, I have the highest grossing DC movie of all time, Aquaman. So Aquaman is a really funky movie because in some ways it feels intentionally cheesy. In many ways, like when they're playing that like hard rock music as like Jason Momoa comes out of the steam and he's all muscular and he just beat up a bad guy. But then other times it feels like it's trying to be really serious and then it's a little cheesy at the same time. So it's like DC almost is like, we can't really make an actually amazing film like Guardians of the Galaxy, for example, or Captain America, Civil War. So let's just make kind of an ironically really good movie. And in some capacity that works with Aquaman. Sure, there's a lot of like tonal fluctuation, and I had a hard time understanding like what they were trying to go for it, but they did a great job with the two lead characters of Aquaman and Mera. I love their relationship in it. They were super awesome. Jason Momoa and Amber Heard did such a great job. I also really liked Willem Dafoe's Vulko. He was a good character. The villain, Patrick Wilson's, was a little underdeveloped. Orm is his name, and that's kind of a typical trend of these super movies, unfortunately. I thought the themes, some of them were there for sure. I feel like there's too muddled and there's too many of them at once. But the strongest asset is that it's visually stunning. So many of the fight scenes are spectacular. I love the one where Nicole Kidman is fighting all of those people from Atlantis at the very beginning of the movie in her home on dry land. That was so awesome. Barcelona, all the scenes in there were just beautiful to watch and so cool how they had the faraway shots of them running on the rooftops. It was just so sick to watch. I thought this was overall a really, really fun movie. Sure, there were some flaws, and I really wish that Black Manta was given a more prominent role. Like, I don't think it's necessary to have multiple villains in this. I would have much rather seen just Orm or just Black Manta, but that's fine. Overall, I enjoyed it a lot. I'm super stoked for Aquaman 2. It's unfortunate that it's coming out 4 years after the first one, December 2022, but I'm sure it's going to be a hit. And it's pretty crazy to see Aquaman be the highest grossing DC movie of all time, making well over $1 billion. And I think it's very well deserved. It is the definition of a fun popcorn movie. The latest DC Extended Universe film, Shazam, comes in at number 3. Shazam is the most recent DC Extended Universe movie, and it's a very different one. It feels very separated from the rest of them, because he hasn't been in any other films with any of the other characters, which all the other movies, they definitely have a lot of intersecting, even Aquaman, because Aquaman was in, like, Justice League, which had all the other characters, but Shazam is a totally new entity, and it feels just completely separated from the DC Extended Universe, besides the fact that there are a lot of fun Batman and Superman references because the kids are like big fans of them. It was really cool to see a different aspect of that where it's almost like the superheroes are celebrated as like celebrities and stuff and they're not just like characters in it, so that was kind of fun to watch. And the whole big dynamic, how like it's a kid but it's actually Shazam in like adult's body, that was fun to watch. Zachary Levi was amazing in the role. It was so great. All the child actors did a very good job. Sure, there's some supporting characters that weren't as developed as I would have liked, and I thought the villain was so terrible. They underutilized Mark Strong and that possible villain arc completely, which made me really upset. The fight scenes weren't particularly remarkable, but there was definitely some cool CGI here and there, and they were fun to watch. This movie is really funny, easily the funniest of the DC Extended Universe movies so far. Not all the jokes hit, like I wouldn't say it's Guardians of the Galaxy or Thor Ragnarok level, but overall it's a really hilarious movie, and I think they nailed the tone pretty solid about it being just dramatic and just a heartfelt dramedy with a lot of coming of age to it. There is some melodrama, but there are a lot of awesome, great lines too. So there is a mix because I feel like almost all of the DC Extended Universe movies are a bit inconsistent, which is unfortunate to see this trend in them, but this one, more often than not, hits and doesn't miss. And that's why I think it's a great movie and easily one of the best of this extended universe. Can't wait to see more of Shazam. Man of Steel, the original DCEU film, comes in at number 2 on my list. I've always thought Man of Steel is one of the most underrated superhero movies of all time. I remember June 2013 was the last day of school, and I was super skeptical about seeing Superman. I never loved him. I always thought that they made Superman too perfect. I didn't love the other superhero movies. It was long before I saw Smallville, and when I came out, I loved the movie. I thought it was super awesome. General Zod was such a great villain. When you cast Michael Shannon as your villain, you're gonna get a pretty awesome one. I mean, think Shape of Water. He was so great in that. He's always great in his villain roles. Henry Cavill did such a great job at performing this like tortured Superman, and this really made me fall in love with the character, and even more so after Smallville. But now I realize that he's such a great character. It's just that I don't love the other Superman movies. This is easily my favorite of them all, and I think it's really just well done. There are some flaws, and I think sometimes it gets too dark, and there's too many flashback sequences, but overall, it's a very visually stunning movie. It's long, but it doesn't feel super long. Has a great villain, tons of great action sequences, lots of great drama, a great romance with Lois Lane, played by Amy Adams, who actually gets something to do, unlike in all the other DC Extended Universe movies, which I don't know why you're underutilizing Amy Adams, who's one of the finest actresses of all time. But this movie gets that right, and they use Henry Cavill very well as Superman. Doesn't show his funnier side and lighter side like he does in Justice League, but he does a great job nevertheless. It's so fun though to see him on first time flying. That was a part where there is some joy in Man of Steel. I feel like people forget. They're like, oh, it's such a dark movie. But no, there is some really upbeat stuff in it, and I love that about it. I thought it was cool to see more of the backstory on Krypton, with like Jor-El, played by Russell Crowe. That was really cool to see, and I thought that was interesting. Overall, this is an excellent movie. I think people just give it too hard of a time. I don't know how it got around on Rotten Tomatoes. Overall, really happy with this movie, and this is easily one of the best DC Extended Universe films. And of course, coming in at number 1, The Amazing Wonder Woman. This is by far the best of the DC Extended Universe movies, and I feel like it's probably the only one where it just has this really like strong consistency with it, and doesn't have that other trend that all the other ones really have about being kind of a little bit all over the place. Wonder Woman is very well done. Patty Jenkins knew what she was doing. Gal Gadot is so phenomenal in the lead role. Chris Pine is so great as Steve Trevor also. Of course, the villain twist is a little weak, and I thought they could have done more with that. And yes, there is a really kind of a bad climax with a bunch of like big CGI and stuff. I didn't love that, but for the most part, this movie's excellent. Yes, it shares some similarities with Captain America: The First Avenger, another great movie, but it still differentiates itself. Gal Gadot does such a great job at playing Wonder Woman, who's this like tough but still naive character, and you see her first go into the world of man, and it's just really interesting to watch. She's such just a beacon of light in the DC Extended Universe, and it's so amazing. She does such a great job. Chris Pine plays such a fully developed character. That was really cool to see. It has a very emotional ending in that regards. I love that like the ragtag team that they pulled together during World War I. But also fun to see World War I super movie, which I don't think there's ever been another one. Of course, that no man's land scene is just iconic when she runs out in the middle of the two trenches when they're fighting against the Germans. That was so cool to watch. There's just a lot of great lines in it. It's really hilarious when it wants to be, but it really just does a great job balancing the humor and the drama, and that is amazing. It's so hard for these movies to capture a perfect tone, and Wonder Woman does. There are some drawbacks, but overall this is a great movie. One of my favorite super movies of all time, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but it's actually my favorite DC movie of all time. Yes, I know, I like it more than all the Dark Knight trilogy. Take that as you will, but either way, I think we can all agree that this is the best movie of the DC Extended Universe. It's so awesome, and so overall, I think the DC Extended Universe is looking up. They're definitely improving for sure. I mean, the most recent films in the DC Extended Universe are some of the best. I think that's really great with Shazam, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, not as much Justice League, but still the DC Extended Universe is improving. That's great to see because it got off to such a rocky start besides Man of Steel. Overall, there's definitely some gems here and there, although there are some miserable movies like Suicide Squad. So thank you for watching my ranking. I really am curious to see yours in the comment section down below. Comment down other videos you want to see me do next, and make sure to like and subscribe for more awesome film content from Film Frenzy. I'll see you guys later. Bye.